All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Can I hear a big round of applause for everybody? Yes, let's hear it out. Welcome back. Thank you. Just so that we get the attention of people standing outside, can you all make some noise? Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here to talk about the ever-rising customer expectations is the owner and founder of Horizontal Integration, the next generation agency positioned to bridge the gap between marketing and IT and to deliver strategic, customer-centric solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome Chris Staley.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'm going to start by saying I'm a co-founder, so I didn't found it by myself. Sabin Afram is my business partner here, so I can't take all the credit. So I'm going to start off, first of all, talking about why this is a weird spot for me to be. I'm at a developer conference, and I'm not a developer. So I'm going to be speaking today from a point of view from a digital strategist. I am a Sitecore MVP once they had the digital strategy track, so at least I have that going for me from relevancy. So before we dive in, I want to say thank you to Sitecore. This is an amazing event. I can't believe this is the first year it happened. I was talking to someone the other day about the first time I went to what is now Symposium. It was Dreamforce. It was in Boston, in a small little room with a little screen and a projector, very little branding. So to be here, is this being the first event and having it be this, it beats the first year of Symposium. So be pretty proud at how well this turned out and how great you guys are at supporting this. Next, I want to say thank you to Microsoft. This event couldn't happen without them. And again, having sponsors like this really make these events be possible, especially at this level. So thank you, Microsoft. It's my second time in Bangalore, and I was sitting there thinking, a lot's changed in this city since I was here last. I think it was 2 years ago I was here last. I think about 1 million people have moved into the city since then. So a lot of change to this town. So I was thinking about my travel here, and I was reading the Amazon annual report, and Jeff Bezos writes a letter to his shareholders every single year. Raise your hand if you know who Jeff Bezos is. Okay, Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon, right? So he's built this little company into this massive thing. And he likes to write a point of view as to what he sees in the industry. So this year, Jeff focused the first part of the shareholder report, and he writes kind of the point of view of how he sees the marketplace. And this year, he spent time writing around customer expectations. So I'm going to pull some quotes out, but he basically, to summarize it, says, customers are divinely discontent. What that means is their expectations are never static. They're continually going up. So people have a voracious appetite for a better way, and he goes on to talk about we're all born as hunters and gatherers, essentially, way back when our ancestors were, and look at our society today. So by the nature of life, we've always been looking for a better way, right? We're not living out in the wild and we're not hunting and gathering. We have a different society today. So, he always says yesterday's wow becomes today's ordinary. So let's think about that for a minute. That's important. Yesterday's wow becomes today's ordinary. So you think about when Uber came out, that was a wow moment for me. And I know everyone talks about Uber, talks about that wow moment, the first time you got the phone and the car's driving around. Fair enough. So a couple years goes by, it's pretty ordinary now. But what did happen is when I started to order food to be delivered at home, I didn't pick up the phone, order food, and expect them to say, hey, we'll be there in about an hour, and that was it. No, I go on my app. It says, your food's being prepared. It says it's ready to be picked up. The driver's picking it up. Then it shows you the picture of the little car, right? Feels like Uber. So all of a sudden, the fact that this ordinary, it's not just ordinary in one industry. It affects everything else. So now the food delivery industry has to live up to the standards of Uber. So, Jeff goes on to say you can't rest on your laurels in this world because customers just won't have it. They will not put up with it. I will not call a food service delivery company that's going to say, hey, it'll be there in about an hour and hang up. I'm going to use one that has an app and shows me where my food is and where my driver is. So again, this idea that customer expectations are going up, you have to think about that, right? And so I started to think about my expectations and how they were on my trip here. Here's me on the way here in Chicago, about to head on my flight to France and then to Bangalore. And so, I started to think about the experience of travel. So in the old days when I used to travel, I'd get this plane ticket. You'd sit by and wait for it anxiously to come in the mail. And again, I'm probably dating myself now here. But so the plane ticket comes in the mail and you set it aside. And you're worried about, I'm going to lose this ticket. So like all the other papers in your house, you set it aside. You check it 3 or 4 times before you travel and you know where this ticket is. Then you get to the airport, you give the ticket, you get past the gate, and you have to find out where your flight is. Because when it was a paper ticket, they couldn't put the gate. They didn't know where the gate was going to be by the time. So you have to go literally get there and you race to the board and you look for your flight. So I started to think about how Delta has slowly raised my expectations, right? So it all started with this. When I went from a paper ticket to a kiosk, so now I come to the airport, I go to the kiosk, I don't have to worry about the paper ticket and placing it. And for me, I lose everything, right? So the idea that I'm not panicked, thinking about where my ticket is, Delta just took that experience and improved it for me. So now I can come to the airport, I go to the kiosk, I get my ticket. And so things are better, right? They went from me being anxious about where my ticket is and to having to kind of look up my flight to now just showing up to the airport and getting a ticket in a kiosk. Then along comes this thing called the app. With the kiosk, I still had a paper ticket. And I had to carry that around in my back pocket. And every time I paid for food or did something, I'd worry about my ticket falling out of my pocket. So now, they essentially have put it into my phone, which I know where it is. So they've taken away one more touch point that was a challenge for me, right? So they have the app, and all is great. I can come, I can buzz it in, walk through, and get onto my plane. But then they added this thing of flight notifications. Flight notifications start to change the point of view because I can get information along my travel experience real time. So they started with flight notifications, and kind of the first ones that was important is when I'm walking to my gate, and we've all been there. You go down to your gate, and you get to your gate, and it says your gate's changed. You have to go to the other side of the airport, right? And so the first time you're walking down towards your gate and your phone buzzes and says, oh, your gate's changed, they stopped me halfway. So they increased that, and they saved me that hassle as a customer. Then it started coming to the point where flight delays was the next notification. So here we are a couple months after they said your gate's changed. I'm at the airport one time, and it says your flight's delayed. And it was amazing because you used to have to sit and wait for the person on the phone, and everyone's frustrated the second you hear it's delayed. You want more information. And here I have it in the palm of my hand. The other thing they did, if you see, is they said, would you like to rebook onto a different flight? So I have that in the palm of my hand. So not only do I have the experience that was inconvenienced from a delayed flight, I have a way to fix that now as a customer, and I have information. I will tell you the experience on Delta where they're really in trouble as a company is, whenever a flight's delayed and they get on the microphone and they start saying a flight's delayed, I have more information than the people behind the desk now. They give me outdated information compared to what's on my app. So, that's a bad customer experience they have to figure out. But it's amazing how great the information is on this app. So the thing when I went to a great expectation that blew my mind for the first time is when I'm sitting on the plane and I have the app in my pocket. This is a couple years after their app come out, and my phone buzzes and it says, your luggage has just been loaded onto the plane. Now, this is an experience that kind of was a wow for me. All the other ones was somewhat expected, but this was a wow. I thought, for all the times you wonder, did my bag make it on the plane? And you're thinking through, what would I do if I didn't have the clothes when I show up at the conference? What am I going to wear? I knew it was on the plane from this app. So I thought, that's pretty incredible. Someone had to sit down and say, how do we do this? What systems need to integrate, right? What's the technology that needs to happen? So from there, then the other wow that hit me is once I landed and I'm walking towards the baggage carousel, a typical experience in the past was I had to go, we all know it, you get out, there's carousels, there's a long line of 20, and you're looking at the screen at every single one. You probably miss it, have to walk all the way back. While I'm walking through, my phone goes, and it tells me my bag's arriving at carousel 6 before I even get to start looking at that long line of carousels. So again, they took a pain point of my experience out of my travel. On top of that, then they have everything else, right? They allow me to manage my loyalty. I can see the points I have, when I can redeem free flights. I can see once I land at a different airport, I can get a map of the airport. I can book flights, all of the above. So it's amazing how much further this experience has gone, right? And you really look at the menu of things that they've allowed me to do as a customer. I can see status. I can track my bag. So not only can it tell me where my bag is on the plane, I can see where my bag is in process. If it's lost, it'll tell me where it is. I can go find out where a Delta Sky Club. I can see their fleet. I can do Delta Studio, which is another amazing point. Think of all the times we used to be on planes and get bored, and you'd be going, are we there yet? Having a movie available was great, but having a movie available on my phone and streamed by the Delta app, that was incredible, right? Because not every plane has the little monitors on them. So on and on and on and on. And then, I recently bought an Apple Watch, and once again, I went, wow. So you're kind of at the airport, and you're hassle pulling your phone out, and you have to go check it and put it back in, and now all of a sudden I can just do this and go boop and walk right by. So again, Delta once again raised my expectations. And I wasn't even expecting that was possible, and they did it, right? So they're getting ahead of my expectations. The funny thing about Apple is now the largest watch brand, the largest watch company, right? They overtook Rolex in 2018. They had 50% year-over-year Apple Watch sales growth in 2017. And the funnier part is the Switch watch exports fell 10% in 2016, and they got worse in 17 and 18. Now, why is this important? Because when we're talking about customer expectations, the expectation from this watch I have on my wrist is very different. I expect to see how far I'm running. I expect to stream my music when I don't have my phone and I'm on the treadmill. I expect to be able to see my heart rate. I expect to be able to check my emails. I expect to be able to see where my meeting is. So my expectations of what this watch does for me has been raised. Now, if you think about it, how many Swiss watch companies are meeting those expectations on our wrists? They're not. They came in and thought there's a technology company here, right? Apple really took off in 17 and 18 because they looked at the Swiss watch industry and said, what are the things that they are doing? Oh, they're waterproof. Our product is not waterproof, right? It's a piece of hardware. It's electronic. So Apple made them waterproof. And their sales went through the roof. And it's the first time that they overtook the #1 place in the market over a traditional watch company, which is Rolex. And why that's important is because the Swiss watchmakers didn't understand that someone else was raising the expectations of their customer and that they needed to keep up. They have since come out publicly, Rolex and many others, and said, we have realized we're late. We need to start making our watches, as much as they're a timepiece, they have different expectations from the customers today. So I digress, but air travel really hasn't changed that much when you think of the fundamentals of their business. The planes are about the same. In fact, a lot of planes are about 20, 30 years old, right? So the planes haven't changed. The idea that I show up, I check in my luggage, I get on a plane and go to a destination, nothing's changed, not one bit. But my entire experience as a traveler has changed. From the moment I get notifications, from being able to track my bag, from being able to watch a movie on the plane, they have completely raised my expectations. And it's really focused more around customer service, right? The actual travel is the same, but they were able to go across every single pain point I had in their experience and try and fix it. So I started to say, what other experiences have raised my expectations? Especially, it's easy to say digital, and we're at a technology conference. But I wanted to say, are there other areas in my life that someone has been able to change and raise my expectations? And so I was chatting with a family member, and they brought up a story to me that I remember from my past. It was my father's 65th birthday, and the family went on a safari. So we go on this great safari at a place called Singita. It's in Kruger National Park in South Africa. And, I want to show a picture here to show you how remote it is. They're kind of huts. 16 kind of families can stay there at the same time. We're in the middle of nowhere, right? Surrounded by animals that can eat you, of course, but in the middle of nowhere. And so, I'm in this experience, and the first night at dinner, I have this drink, it's like a Bailey's with coffee, but they said it's Amarillo. It's a brand from there. And so I tried this drink out. I said, wow, this is great. So the next day we go on safari, and we get off the safari, and I get off the safari truck, and I'm walking in, and they have a little stand set up with a coffee cups, and Amarillo. And I walk by thinking, this is great. I really enjoyed that last night. Coincidence. Then at dinner that night, I have a glass of wine. It's a special wine that they recommended. And I talked to somebody how much I enjoyed this glass of wine. And the next night I show up to dinner, and they said, sir, we poured you the glass of wine we thought you liked from last night. And on and on. And so as I talked to my family, I found out more other experiences like this that my family members had that they enjoyed kept increasing. And experiences that they didn't like. For example, if someone's giving you too much service and you're feeling kind of like, hey, we're just having fun, I don't need that, they started to back off. And so as I went through this experience, I started to understand what's going on here. Why do they keep increasing the experiences that I'm liking and decreasing those that I don't in the middle of nowhere, right? This isn't on a website with personalization. And so I started to understand through these experiences that they kept increasing. The last night I went and said thank you to the person managing this, and I said, so I have to ask, I'm in technology, and I work on this platform, Sitecore, and we can manage preferences and understand personalization, but here we are in the middle of nowhere. What's going on? And they flip open this little laptop, and they have every customer listed, and they manage things, positive experiences and negative experiences, and the staff every morning has to review each customer's preference. And now you can do that with only 16 families and staff assigned. But the idea that they're focused on raising customer expectations in the middle of nowhere by tracking things that are positive and negative and giving you less of the negative and more of the positive, right? That's pretty impressive. I will say I read a magazine article the other day, and it listed Singita in all the resorts in the world, and it was listed at number 8 of all the resorts. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. Think of all the technology and everything you can do. These guys are number 8 because they look at that customer expectation and how to keep it top of mind. So, it brought me back to my experience. So I travel to Chicago quite often for a client. And every time I get there, I walk in and they ask me for my name. And I give them my name. And they say, sir, have you been here before? Now talk about the lack of giving expectations. I'm a frequent traveler. I'm here almost every 3 weeks. And they know my name when I checked in, yet they still ask me if I've been here before. That's the opposite of the experience I had at Singita, right? So when you start thinking about this, I want you guys to think about how do you raise your customers' expectations. A big piece of this that my agency focuses on, and we believe true to be the case, is the experience is the brand, and the brand is the experience. So when we look at Delta, and we start saying, what is the Delta brand? Why is it such a great experience for me? Why do I prefer to fly Delta versus somewhere else? It's the experience I have on Delta. It's not the plane. United has very similar planes, right? It's the exact customer experience I had the whole time that I had the experience. So when you look at it, right, your brand is more than an instantly recognizable logo or media campaign. Why that's important for everyone in this room is I don't think many of you see yourselves as marketers. I think you see yourselves as developers. But when we start talking about that this brand is about the experience, every single one of you that's a developer building experiences for your client's customer or your end customer is having an impact on your brand. So what that means is the sum of every single touch point a customer has is going to define the brand experience. And the touch points, like on Delta, where we can take friction for the customer out of the experience, is in everyone in this room's control. We are contributors to building these experiences. What's funny is, 89% of companies expect to compete mostly on the basis of customer experience by the end of 2019. So when we start looking at Delta and thinking about this customer experience, Delta has a great customer experience, and they're doing a great job. But only 1 in 10 companies think marketing technologists say their brand is structured to deliver a seamless customer experience. So what you're telling me is there's going to be 9 companies that won't keep up. There will be 9 airlines that will get gobbled up by Delta because they will lose their customers, and Delta will know how to build a better experience. So when you think of that and you look at your companies, you have to ask yourself, for your companies or your clients' companies, are they ready? Are they positioned to do this? There's this great book, A More Beautiful Question by Warren Berger. And it asks the question, what if, right? So when we think about Delta, and Delta started with a paper ticket, then they moved to a kiosk, then they moved to the app, someone had to ask, what if? So the first time they had this happen, they felt great that we have a good customer service, and someone sat in the back of the room and said, what if we tracked bags and could tell someone your bag's on the plane? What if I could tell you where your bag's going to? They had to ask the question, what if? And I think this is important for us in this room and at this conference, if we can get it to move a slide. Because one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is to activate a customer experience that's going to improve the brand. We have to ask, what if we centralized all data integrations into a scalable marketing platform, orchestrating all the touch points into a connected customer experience? And I challenge you to say, we already have that platform. That's what Sitecore can do for you. That's what it's able to do. The challenge is, you have to ask yourselves, what if? So it's no longer just a marketer saying, hey, I want to do this experience. I think as developers, as technologists, we need to take an active role into building that brand experience and working with your marketer and saying, what if? A marketer might not know. Because I know the first answer normally is, I can't do that. That data doesn't come from this server and we can't get to it. But that doesn't help build the customer experience. So when you look at it from what if, how do we change this? What if we were able to connect these two systems and bring the data into Sitecore? What if I could take this piece of data and improve a customer experience in Sitecore because now I can get at it and personalize an experience for a customer? What if? So I'm going to leave you guys thinking about this as you head down your path of building a connected omni-channel customer experience for your clients' customers or your own customers. I just want to leave you with one last thought. Ask the question, what if? Thank you. So we have 30 minutes. I didn't want to bore you for an hour, but we did have a sign up for Beats headphones. So what I wanted to do now is, Hardeep, come up and let's auction that off.
All right, I'm going to make the drawing.
Here you go, Sally.
Any favorites? I don't need mine. All right. This guy is one lucky guy. His name has been called this morning as well. That's Deen Dayal Sundar. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 15-minute break for you.